we're going to look at the equivalence of fractions, decimals and percentages. There are some basic fractions, decimals and percentages that we should know. And these are as follows. A half is 0.5 as a decimal and 50% as a percentage. We can half a half and get a quarter. So a quarter is 0.25 as a decimal and 25% as a percentage. We can half a quarter to get an eighth. So 1/8 is 0.125 as a decimal and 12.5% as a percentage. Look at a fifth is 0.2 as a decimal and 20% as a percentage. We can half a fifth to get a tenth, and 1/10 is 0.1 as a decimal and 10% as a percentage. 1/3 is 0.3 recurring. This dot here means recurring, which means that the 3 will go on and on forever. If we change that to a percentage, we get 33.3 recurring percent. We can use these basic equivalences to help us with more complicated ones. If we take 3/8, for example, we know that 1/8 is 0.125 as a decimal, so we need to multiply by 3 to get 3/8, and that's 0.375. So 3/8 is 0.375 as a decimal, or 37.5% as a percentage. If we take 40%, looking at our table, we can see that 1/5 is 20%. If I double that, I get 2/5, which is 40%. So we know that 40% is 2/5 as a fraction and 0.4 as a decimal. If we look at 2/3, we know that 1/3 is 0.3 recurring. So 2/3, we need to double that, so we get 0.6 recurring, which is 66.6 recurring percent. That's nice when we've got denominators that we recognise. Now we need to look at what happens in general. So I want to look at the fraction, changing it into a decimal. I need to divide the numerator by the denominator. So we'll take 4/9 as an example. So 4 divided by 9. Good opportunity to use your bus shelter. So we're looking at 4 divided by 9. 9 doesn't go into 4, so we put a 0, and we need to make this point 0. 4 and 4.0 are the same, and this one has a decimal place. We now carry the 4 across to that 0. 9s go into 40 4 times. So 9 times 4 is 36, but we have 4 left over, so we carry that 4 again. 9s into 40 go 4 times, we carry the 4 again. We can see a pattern developing, so we know that 0.444 is 0.4 recurring. So we know that 4/9 is 0.4 recurring. If I want to go from a decimal to a fraction, we need to write the number over the lowest place value. So, for example, 0.7, this is the 10th column, so that means we're 7/10. 0.7 is 7/10. If I take 0.23, this 3 is in the hundredths column, so that is 23/100. If I want to go from a decimal to a percentage, percentage means out of 100. So to change a decimal to a percentage, we multiply by 100. So 0.42, if I times that by 100, I move the digits 2 places to the left, so I end up with 42%. If I had 0.04, moving them 2 places to the left means that that would be 4%. To change a percentage to a decimal, is do the opposite. I need to divide by 100. So if I've got 32%, that gives me 0.32 as a decimal. And if I do 7%, I've got to move back 2 spaces and dividing by 100. So that's 0.07. The last option is to change a fraction to a percentage. So in order to change a fraction to a percentage, you need to make the denominator (100) by making an equivalent fraction. So if I take 2/25, to turn 25 into 100, we need to times by 4. As it's an equivalent fraction, we need to times the numerator by 4. That gives me 8 out of 100, which is 8%. If I was to do 6 out of 20, if we wanted to simplify the fraction first to make it easier, 3/10, I can then multiply my 10 by 10 to make 100, which means I need to multiply by 3 by 10 to make 30. So that gives me 30%. If I want to change a percentage to a fraction, you need to divide by 100. So for example, 14% is 14 over 100. And if we can simplify fractions, we should end up with 7 over 50. Likewise, if you had 6%, 6 over 100, which gives you 3 over 50. 2 ways to convert between equivalent fractions, decimals, percentages. Compare them to the ones you know, or choose one of these methods to help you do so.